That's where Pat Kelsey, I think, has understood his assignment. And that's something that I stressed a lot about with whoever Louisville is going to hire to be the new coach. Louisville has missed the NCAA tournament, hasn't played an NCAA tournament because they would have been in 2020 if they had a tournament. But it's been 5 years since Louisville's been in the big dance. That hasn't happened since 1958. UofL's had 3 straight losing seasons. That hasn't happened since 1942. So whoever the new coach was going to be, they're stepping into a really, really tough spot, and they know that. And it's not Pat Kelsey's fault that Louisville's been so bad lately. But the fans are so starving for any level of success, they have to understand the sense of urgency of, we're not doing the Kenny Payne, the program's broken, it's going to take 3-4 years thing. You got to get going and have that sense of urgency and win now. And I think Pat Kelsey's done a really, really great job of sensing that and really putting together a roster that can be competitive year one.
Absolutely. And he brought in guys with him. He brought guys with him from Charleston. Rain Smith is a conductor of an offense, plays the game hard, plays the game composed, cool, collected. You know, you bring in James Scott, who's going to help them quite a bit, I think, as well, and they're really high on him. Chucky Hepburn's a winner. He's a winner, Jack. And all I hear right now is that Chucky Hepburn is poised for a big-time season here in Louisville. I think he's going to be tough, hard-nosed, gonna fit right into Kelsey's system. Pat Kelsey wants to play tempo. They want to be top 10 in the country in tempo, and I think they got a chance to be there. Terrence Edwards comes from winning. You know, Mark Byington did a great job with Terrence Edwards and with T.J. Bickerstaff and James Madison, winning an NCAA tournament game for the first time in several decades this past year. Javon Hadley was a really nice ad coming in from Colorado, right? They have just made conscious ad after ad after ad that makes a lot of sense. You know, I like what they did in the portal. I think that they're going to be a team that's deep, that has a plethora of guard options and a plethora of ability to get tempo. As long as that front court fully comes together, they're going to be a really interesting team and can be an NCAA tournament team.
And that was my next question for you. Do you think they did enough in that front court? Because they missed out on Coleman Hawkins. They missed out on Great Osibor. They've kind of taken, there's many ways to win in the portal. You don't always have to get the Hunter Dickinson type players. We've seen guys, Marcus Damask, Lance Jones, just to name a couple off the top of my head. Dalton Connect, obviously, biggest example of any of them. But there's many, Janai Broom as well. There's many ways you can win in the portal. Did Louisville get the right under the radar guys to where, I'm not saying they need to be first team all league or anything like that, but they can fill that void to where it's not going to be the thing that cripples them throughout the season?
I think they'll be all right. I mean, I really like the addition of Kason Pryor, coming in from USF. I think that he's going to be a really tough player and a guy that can fit in. I'll be curious to see how Ali Khalifa comes in this program and how he performs. I think it's a fair question to ask about this team. But if you do look at Pat Kelsey's squads, Ante Berzovic was his best front court player at Charleston over the last couple of years. But Jack, he wasn't some towering big man. Pat wants to play fast. You don't need to dump it into somebody every possession down. You need 5 guys who can shoot it at all times on the floor in his offense when it's working at its best. I think that they're fine. I think in the ACC, different styles win. In the ACC, if you're doing the same thing as everybody else, do you really want to end up in the same class as Clemson and Wake Forest? Now, you might say, well, we take what Clemson's done the last couple of years. They went on a magical run last season, made the Elite Eight. I get it. I do. But to me, you got to zag as a new coach. Louisville's going to play differently than a lot of these teams in the ACC do, than a lot of teams, period. So I think their front court will be fine. I don't think it's the biggest strength of the team. I also don't think it's some detractor. We're going to find out some this week when they're in the Bahamas, but I do. I think that this is a tournament team. And you're right. In the transfer portal era, where NIL matters most, it's not some 3 to 5 year plan anymore. It's win now, baby. Win now. I think this team will win. I think that they can make the NCAA tournament. I said that they find a way to get there. If they do not get there and they have an 18-win season and they make the NIT, then the momentum propels for you to break through next year, make it back to the big dance and get there and go. But I like the roster. I think it's an NCAA tournament team.
I think it was Dosser and Goodman had this stat on the on Field of 68 After Dark, saying only one high major team the last 3 years has brought back less than 16% of their roster and made the NCAA tournament. That was Iowa State 15.5% in 21-22. I think Louisville's trip to the Bahamas helps a lot to get this jump start on it, but Louisville did not bring back anyone from last year's roster. And I don't want to slight anyone on last year's roster, but I think that was the right thing to do, to be completely honest. But how can Pat Kelsey mesh everyone together, starting with this Bahamas trip this week, to be able to overcome that set and make the NCAA tournament?
Well, he's already done it by bringing in kids with him from Charleston. I mean, I'm telling you, Rain Smith is a leader. James Scott, they think, is going to fully blossom. And Kobe Rogers. I mean, they brought in kids that are going to help them. That are going to say to other guys, this is what we do. This is how we do it. This is what coach wants. The Bahamas trip helps a ton. I wouldn't worry about that. Do you want to inherit bad players, losing players? I know somebody might say that's harsh. I love those players. I love the kid for who he is. I get that, but this is a business now. We're no longer in college sports. It's a business. You're paying players to play for you. So for me, do you want to, if you are going to take over a restaurant, do you want to inherit the same menu that's made the restaurant crappy for years? Or do you want to do a new menu, put in some new high homes for some lighting, and clean the place? It's time to clean Louisville up. Louisville's got massive potential, but if it's being run like crap, it's not going to be very good. Nothing is. It's going to be run the right way now. And Pat Kelsey, relationships are what Pat does. Relationships are what Pat does. I'm not worried about this team meshing, and I'm not worried that their entire roster's new. It might take some time. Rick Pitino at St. John's didn't make the tournament this past year because it took time. But, Jack, everybody's saying they're going to make it this year. You're on that path, Louisville. I hope you make the tournament. But if you don't panic. You're on the right path. Pat Kelsey knows what it takes to win. He's a smart man. He won at a high level at Charleston. He can win at Louisville because at Louisville, he has every resource available to him. They're on the right pathway.